And we're live. Let's go.
All right. Here we are. Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live with Michael Bleakley and yours truly, Raphael Calamat. This is a very special edition of the Golf Podcast Live. We have a guest. His name is Mark Zecchino from Golf Talk Canada, TSN Golf, and PGA Tour Radio Live. Mark, welcome to the show.
Guys, thanks for having me. What an exciting week in golf. This is a good time to chat, I guess, right?
Absolutely. What a crazy weekend. Your first take, obviously you walked 18 holes for 4 days, covering what seems to be the greatest Canadian Open since the year 2000. I've attended a dozen since then, and I can't remember the crowds and the people just cheering on McIlroy, our newfound son of golf. And, with Finau and Thomas and Burns and Rose in the mix, it really put LIV in the rearview mirror for a little while, because your thoughts not only on LIV, but let's start with the Canadian Open, your experience and what you thought about the Canadian Open this year.
The interesting thing about the comparison to 2000, 2000 is kind of on our radar, in my opinion, because of one individual, because, Tiger Woods shows up, wins the championship, wins it in the same year as the US Open and Open Championship to match what Lee Trevino did decades before, and does it with a historic golf shot from the bunker adjacent to the 18th fairway there at Glen Abbey. What happened in 2019, and then what happened this weekend to me, is yes, you've got Rory McIlroy as Canada's adopted son, to your point, which it seems to be the way this has gone. And yes, he is the biggest star in the game outside of Tiger Woods. So we have all that. But I think there's other moving parts here that make this better. I think the size of galleries, the supporting cast. Look at that final group on Sunday with Tony Finau. And Justin
they couldn't script it better.
100%.
And you've got Justin Rose threatening to break 60, an hour ahead of them. And Sam Burns, who's won 3 times on the PGA Tour this year, putting 4 rounds in the 60s and coming at them. I think, with all due respect to Glen Abbey, which I thought was a wonderful tournament golf course, if you remove the word tournament from the venue and just go golf course to golf course, there's no comparison. St. George's is a much superior golf course, as is Hamilton. So I think there's so much at play here and hold on, something else we haven't even discussed is, in 2000, with all due respect to everybody involved, there was Mike Weir, Stephen Ames, and that it kind of ended there.
Yeah.
And we had 20 Canadians in the field this week. And that also made it, before the week even started, there was this great hope that maybe this was the year. So I think there's so many things at play here that make this such an exceptional Canadian Open and possibly the best ever. To your other point, Raphael, at the beginning of the week, we were getting dragged into the LIV hole, and we really had no choice. I mean, there was so much news breaking. There was so much controversy. Everyone has a passionate opinion about this, so you can't avoid it. TSN was on the grounds every day. We were doing Golf Talk Canada, our radio version of Golf Talk Canada. We were doing Monday through Friday. We did our TV version as well. But then we were also getting pulled into the other shows because everybody wants to talk golf.
Yeah.
And from Monday to Wednesday, it was unfortunate, but 80% of the conversation was a LIV conversation. Now, that started to change once the ball got in the ground Thursday and real shots were hitting, and the Canadian Open certainly changed the narrative and the focus. But in the beginning of the week, to your point, it was LIV, 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 LIV. What's it look like? What's it sound like? The awkward, uncomfortable press conferences. Would you go play golf for Vladimir Putin if he had a tournament tomorrow? Where do you draw your moral line, your compass, yada, yada, yada. And then the other names rumored to go. and then the other names that were official to go. I mean, it was an ever-ending flood of news. And I think it's going to take a lot of the spotlight away from the U.S. Open as well this week, because I just sat down for the day about an hour ago and I was watching the Phil Mickelson press conference.
Yeah.
Horribly uncomfortable.
Yes.
No one will answer they won't actually answer a question, because the answer to the question, and I would almost have more respect for them if they just gave me an honest answer. You know what? No one supports human rights violations. Obviously, everyone in the world was affected by 9/11. I'm sympathetic to the people, the families that were represented in the letter. Like, they say the same thing, but if they just ended it with the truth.
Yeah, it's about the money.
None of it is as important to me as the money they've given me.
Absolutely. Look, we talked about this with Alan Shipnuck in detail for about 45 minutes just before he got onto his flight to go to London, and he got kicked out, and he was all over the tabloids in England. But, as far as a LIV product is concerned, it's not bad. So the product itself is not bad, but let's not get into it and celebrate our Canadian Open a little bit more. St. George's Golf and Country Club, a beautiful Stanley Thompson design. Alan Palmer, the GM, doing a great job. I used to work for his dad 20 some odd years ago at Royal Montreal, following in his footsteps. That was really amazing to see. Golf Canada, of course, Corey Connors, another amazing story. You're talking about a 62. That's what he shot on Sunday to be the top Canadian. And McIlroy, with his 21st PGA victory, sticks it to Norman very nicely with a little punch, saying that's one more than Norman's won on the PGA Tour.
You're segueing back to LIV, Raph.
There it goes again.
But I just wanted to give kudos to your team, and Bob Weeks and Adam Scully for doing such a fantastic job. We hear about all the American golf analysts always talk about the game, but you guys did it justice. So thank you for that. I'm going to throw it over to you, Mike, before I just go rambling on for half hour.
Well, Raph is right. You guys cover golf in general fantastically. You're a great representation for Canadian media. So thanks for the good work and keep it up. I've actually played a few holes with Bob Weeks a couple of years back at the Eagles Nest for some Asante tournament, and so it was good times. And but let's hear. But you guys were there on the ground. You got to participate, walk through the rink, which I thought was a great addition. Like kind of like the tournament in Scottsdale, but on a smaller scale. But it was loud. Tell us what it was like being in the rink.
I mean, it was awesome. We were talking about a little bit about this today. Like, I think tournaments that get an identity of some kind always seem to do well, and fans gravitate. Now, we as Canadians are automatically going to gravitate to our national championship, but I think that rink concept and what Lawrence Applebaum and Golf Canada have been able to accomplish over the last couple Canadian Opens, if you go back, say 2018, 2019, and now this one, I think other golf fans around North America are starting to gravitate to our national championship, which hasn't happened with the exception of Tiger's shot, to Rafael's point, in 2000. With the exception of that shot, I don't think that's happened since the 80s and 70s. I think the 90s is almost a lost decade on a North American and global scale for our championship. And I really feel that's starting to come back. At one point, the Canadian Open was the 5th biggest golf tournament on the PGA Tour at one point.
It is the third oldest tournament.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of that coming back, and I feel a lot of that coming back because of the identity of things they've done, like the rink. But I will say this, when I took off my Golf Talk Canada hat this week and put on my PGA Tour radio hat and walked every hole, I was amazed at now I know I was with Rory, so you got to take this with a grain of salt. And on Thursday and Friday, Rory's group was Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, and God, I forget the third in the group. But I remember the group front was the 3 Canadians: Mike Weir, Adam Hadwin, and Mackenzie Hughes. So you had the two marquee groups back to back in the morning wave and then in the afternoon wave.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not believe the amount of bodies and spectators Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that were all the way out at the 3rd green, 4th green, 13th green. You're talking middle of nowhere. So that environment at the rink in 18 is off the charts at 16 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to tell you, the galleries were like that with those groups all week at all parts of the golf course. I was absolutely shocked. I anticipated it at 16 and 18 because we kind of all knew what was coming. You saw the grandstands earlier in the week. You go, okay, well, they ain't building these grandstands so they could be empty, right?
Yeah.
You know that.
Well, the weather couldn't have been any better. And I saw you up on the hill a few times. We were walking side by side maybe a few times with John Cook. And, you know, I almost saw you fall over a couple of times when he was making those birdies, right? When he made a birdie, you were jumping out of your shoes. Like, you were so excited. And it was so nice to see. I kind of looked over at you and gave you a thumbs up because I thought it was so incredible to be enthusiastic and to be so into the game and to feel it from the crowd, because you're just feeding off the energy of everybody just losing it. And to a point this, I just wanted to mention all those Canadians that came out were cheering and got to know our Canadians through the rink. Yeah. They got introduced properly. People got to know them. You know, now people, not only Connors, but even someone like Jared Dutois, who was playing, we had him on the cast earlier, who's played well and who's been, you know, grinding it out on tour and played over at Torrey Pines this year. Got a chance to play, didn't make the cut, but, you know, these names are getting to be known, and that shows the growth in the game with our youth.
100%. That Aaron Cockrell, 40th on the DP World Tour. So many people on this side of the pond don't know that we've got a Canadian playing on the DP World Tour and playing quite well. So there's a lot of that. But, I mean, it's hard not to get caught up in the excitement out there. You guys were out there. I couldn't go to bed last night. I came home. I was absolutely exhausted from the week, but I was also wired. You know, I just could not come down from the energy. And that's all due to, obviously, these great performers that put on an amazing show and the fans that were out there walking with them. It was absolutely exceptional. It's a hard bar now, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, the bar keeps raising. We're going to go to Oakdale next year. They're going to use a composite golf course of the 27 holes they have to come up with 18. Certainly going to have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to maneuvering around that golf course. Corporate hospitality, spectators, golf carts, etc., TV compound. But man, the bar is high. So, you know, I said to Rory immediately on the 18th green, I was just waiting beside Amanda. CBS gets to go first. We get to go second.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I was waiting for Amanda. I spoke to Rory, and the last thing I said to him was, all right, see you here next year for the three-peat in Toronto. He just laughed. He says, let's hope so. So, you know, here we go. With his name attached as defending.
No one's ever done that, right? No one's done the three-peat.
No, not at all. So it's going to be fun. And with his name attached to this trophy, I expect next year's field to look just as good, if not better.
I think so. And I like its place in the schedule right before the U.S. Open. It's conveniently located for this year's U.S. Open venue. I feel that helped draw good players. And because, you know, the Canadian Open has had an inconsistent schedule over the years. So it's nice to see it. And I hope it stays in this position in the PGA Tour calendar.
Yeah, 100%. Like, what a win. I think down the road, we're certainly not going to see it in the next couple of years because we know where we're going. But I also have heard that down the road, on occasion, when the U.S. Open is West Coast, not next year for LA, but maybe the next time it goes back to Pebble or the next time we see it at Torrey Pines, we might see the RBC Canadian Open on the West Coast out in British Columbia, which would be ideal because they could align it with the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Guarantee the strength of field. I think it's a big win. The week before the U.S. Open is a no-brainer for us. U.S. Open's on the eastern seaboard. We've got it in the southern Ontario region, mainly Toronto. And when it goes to California, those great courses, we push the Canadian Open out to Shaughnessy or another wonderful facility in BC. And I think to your point, I mean, it's so many guys now to not go in the Tiger route, right? Tiger typically only played the week before a major, unless it was the PGA, because he loved the WGC at Bridgestone, right? He won it 8 times at Firestone, and it was the week before the PGA. Other than that, he never played the week before the Masters. He never played. This new crop of younger guys, Rory, JT, Scotty Scheffler, they're saying, you know what? I like to play. I don't want to come into a major without my competitive game in check. I want to play for a major. I'm with you. I love this spot on the schedule.
Yeah, no, it's good. And you know, it's funny you mentioned it coming to the West Coast, because, you know, I talked about this with Bob Weeks at that tournament, and I asked him, because, you know, who else would know more about golf in Canada than Bob? And he indicated that RBC likes it in the Greater Toronto area. It's profitable. When they operate in the West Coast, they lose money.
100%.
So as much, you know, I want it out here because I live like, you know, 5 minutes from Shaughnessy, or maybe 15. But I think coinciding with the Pebble Beach venue might help them draw the players that bring profits, because that dictates a lot of things in life. So
I think what happens there, to your point, it's an economic decision. Okay. Yes. But I also think that RBC knows through their conversations with Golf Canada that keeping it in Toronto when the US Open's on the West Coast and having a bad field in Toronto because of it is also not going to be an economic success.
Yes,
so
good point.
There has been a stress model when it moves west. You increase your percentages to be the week before the US Open. They've never had it out west the week before US Open on this schedule before. They only had it out there when we had our bad spot after the Open Championship.
That's right.
Already behind the 8 ball. I think this time around, to your point, on this schedule really changes the possibilities for the West Coast. I think if the US Open is at Chambers Bay, Pebble Beach, Torrey Pines, etc., I think you could have a very successful RBC at Shaw.
You've got 1 to 2 hour flight from Vancouver down to those venues, and it makes a lot of sense. It'd be great to see it back at Shaughnessy. It was a solid test of golf in the past. You know, I don't know what other course out here they could choose from to be a great host venue. Shaughnessy is a bit limited in terms of space, you know, for corporate and all of that, but it is arguably the best golf course out here for this type of championship.
And guys, if you're just joining us, we're with Mark Zecchino from Golf Talk Canada, TSN Golf and PGA Tour Radio. Really quickly, so we could just pivot, because I know you're limited on your time. I love the fact that it is at Oakdale. Bob Boschman is the director of golf there, started the Canadian Tour, and he's my long-term mentor, so a shout out to him. But just to flip this over to Brook Henderson, so she's not overlooked for 11th LPGA victory. It is incredible what she's accomplished over the last couple of years. And so let's give her kudos. Let's talk about her and her game. Your thoughts on her game and where she might be going in the next year or two.
Well, you know, it's unfortunate that I didn't get to see any of it. I was watching highlights last night because we're drowning in the Canadian Open. But we've been waiting all year for her to kind of put it together all 4 days. And you know, I don't want to call it a slump, but a year for a player of her caliber, it is a slump. I mean, she's already risen the bar at such a young age. You got to call it for what it is. I think, you know, we were all concerned about the driver rules. She's grown up playing this, 48-inch extra long driver her entire career, her entire competitive amateur career, choking down on it, turning it into a 46-inch driver. I always kind of felt like, and maybe you guys have an opinion on this, I never really thought it would affect her distance because she was never using all 48 inches. She was always using it as a 46-inch shaft. I never thought it would affect her distance. I thought it might affect just the way she swings it. It's going to feel different. The counterbalancing of it is going to be different. So I assumed, I know she's a Ping ambassador, a Ping staff player. I just said, they've got to be over the winter and whatnot, experimenting with counterbalance shafts at 46 inches, all these kind of things. You look at the numbers, I think she's averaging like 1.8 yards less this year than last year. So obviously it hasn't affected her. The putter woke up. She went to a cross-handed putter style this week. So she went left hand low and stuck with it for 4 rounds. We've seen her toy with it before, but she was kind of in and out. She's committed to it. Good for her, man. Wow. Amazing. 11 wins.
Right on.
And you guys know the LPGA Tour with 5 majors and a big summer ahead of them and stuff. I mean, you still got time to make this a really good year for her. And
100%.
And it's growing. They're getting more coverage. There's a $10 million purse at the U.S. Open that just went through, which is the largest not only purse in women's sport, but women's golf as well, obviously. And so we're thrilled about that. Again, I can't emphasize how proud I am of our Canadians. You mentioned Aaron Cockrell. He made the cut. He shot 1 under a T48. It's a big deal in his run for trying to get on tour. Beautiful that Mike Weir got a sponsor's exemption, obviously, to show up, and so many fans, the older crowd following him. It's unfortunate he missed the cut, but Sloan McDonald played as well. Hearn, Dutois, we meant Ewert. I haven't seen that name in a while. So Creighton and even Wes Heffernan, who was a big deal years back, played fairly well and shot 6 over. So great group of Canadians, and it's nice to see because otherwise we won't be able to see these guys play on a day-to-day basis.
No, and AJ is going back for his senior year. Just after winning the Jack Nicklaus Trophy a week ago at Memorial. He's decided to go back and finish his college career and is going to go back and try to just keep compiling the wins. And I was speaking to his dad on the grounds at St. George's, and it's just, hey, I agree with his father. Well, we both had the same attitude. Kind of look at it like Tiger Woods versus Michelle Wie. Tiger Woods dominated at every level. Winning breeds winning. By the time you get to the PGA Tour, you expect to win. And Michelle Wie, she put the cart in front of the horse, comes out at 14 years old, not only is trying to play LPGA, she's trying to play Sony Open against the men. Never got in the habit of winning. Making it to Saturday became a success story for her, not winning 7 times in the season.
That's right.
So I like what AJ's doing. I love the fact he's going back and is going to keep piling up the victories and learning to be under par and learning to be comfortable with shooting scores under par. I think when he goes professional, he's going to be prepared for it. I think it's a great plan.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's a big weekend for women's golf in general, like the DP World Tour. We had Lynn Grant, whip the field by 9 strokes, right? Like that's pretty impressive golf. So overall, women's golf is trending, and love to see it keep going in the right direction. Bigger purses and all that. It's inching along. But there's headway.
I think the one thing that would really help the ladies' game, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this because it's something I talk about it with my friends a lot, just that I play casual golf with. And we're all big women's tennis fans, or we were, obviously Serena and Venus were amazing to watch. But even further back, I remember as a kid, I used to love watching Navratilova and Everett and Steffi Graf. Women's tennis was always awesome. And I always said to my
we're in that age bracket.
So I always said to my buddies, the one thing that tennis did so much better than golf, if you want to talk about equalization of money and attention and media rights and television audience and yada yada yada, there was never men's Wimbledon and women's Wimbledon 3 weeks apart.
Yeah,
Wimbledon, it was a fortnight at Wimbledon, and we did men's, we did ladies, we did doubles, we did mixed doubles, we did
I've been talking about this, Mike, all year.
Yeah.
I've been talking about let's get the majors and get everyone together. Let's get the
US
2 tours
Open,
together.
male, female. It would be
There's
wonderful.
lots of courses out there with 2 to 3 courses, even 4 courses, or it could just be across the street where it's convenient for people to, enjoy and mingle and be part of like a week environment of the US Open. or
a couple of years ago an experiment at Pinehurst, and it was one of the most successful
it was
ever. We never saw it again.
Yeah,
that's right.
I thought of this. I thought it would be very cool. You know, we have the Augusta National Women's Amateur now, so we get to see these high-profile amateur women play Augusta National the weekend for one round, the week leading into Augusta. And I was thinking to myself, you know, a few years ago, the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour spoke of aligning from a marketing standpoint and trying to do some things together. And they've done a couple things here or there, but nothing big yet. And I thought, how great would it be the week after the Players' Championship if we had an LPGA Tour Players' Championship right at TPC Sawgrass, and we got to see the greatest women in the world go right after the men on you know, golf's greatest made-for-TV stadium golf course. I mean, that would be a significant investment from you know, the men's side of the game and the LPGA Tour to do something together. I think that would be a monster home run.
It would be. And logistically, you already have the cameras and the TV crews. They're there. So just stay for one more week, capture a women's event. I think it would help grow the women's game, grow the investment, so their purses can get you know, larger. Because you know, there's some really good players out there that just get lost in the mix. Right? There's so much golf on TV now. That you know, people don't have the time to watch 12 hours a day of coverage because you really can get lost in it between you know, all the different tours.
Yeah, I mean, I have people tweet me. I'm sure you guys get it all the time too. Like, why isn't the golf on? Where is it? I'm like, it's on somewhere. You just subscribe to everything, and you'll get it.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. You know, for what it's worth, Mark, I know that the PGA is going to grow a lot more just because there is competition. There is some good that's going to come out of this because their graphics, their pace of showing the event, being easily accessible on YouTube, so it brings out a more diverse audience, letting in people for free. That certainly helps in certain markets. And so there's things that they might learn because we've complained about how coverage can be boring. I can't emphasize how many times my father has fallen asleep on a Sunday when he seemed to be into the game. Right?
I've fallen asleep sometimes. You know,
right.
So go on.
And also to your point, Mark, you talked about getting to know the players and putting them together, the LPGA and the PGA as an event. Also doing player profiles, even if they're 10 seconds long, getting to know all the players. Then we would know who Choi is and Davidson and Travail and Suklich and Leonard, even our Canadians. If you did these 10-second profiles, do a little video story on them, jump back and forth a little bit more, do quad windows with stats rolling back and forth. These things make it a little bit more compelling for the growing millennial crowd and the new Zetters that are getting into the game.
I think we might start seeing some of that down the road. Just mainly, there's just so much golf, and you know, you have a choice when you produce anything, whether it's what you guys are doing on this podcast, what we do at Golf Talk Canada. That's why I started Golf Talk Canada, to be bluntly honest with you. Is, you know, you can either be better than, less than, or different than. Well, it's really hard to be better than because everywhere in the world there's somebody bigger, stronger, faster, and usually can throw more money at it. No one wants to be less than, but we can all try to choose to be different than. So to your some of these PGA Tour Live, ESPN Plus, Golf TV, Live at Amen Corner, feature group coverage, etc. I think that could be a real tool to try to do some of the things you're suggesting. Experiment with some different things. Try it a different way. The way you try things at the Korn Ferry Tour level before they get to the PGA Tour level, etc.
Well, Mark, to do that, I've got 3 screens up.
Right.
To be able to do that. I got my ESPN, I got sometimes my TSN, and then I've got the live coverage and just to be able to get a good understanding of what's going on live.
So I think we're headed there. But you
especially
know,
in the betting world, right?
in our sport, I mean, we are a slow moving vehicle in terms of tradition into innovation. And probably in the last 20 years, we've seen more than we had in the previous 70. You know, look at what, don't you remember waiting for the back nine at Augusta?
Yeah.
That was the most ridiculous thing of all time, waiting for the back nine at Augusta. I remember I didn't even know what the first couple of holes looked like until I think in my 20s.
Didn't even know they had names for a while, right?
And now, in this country in particular, we have more coverage than any other country in the world. You know, we're one of the few countries in the world that get to digital feeds and actually run them on cable television on top of the digital platforms before we go to network coverage. And to your point, people are interacting with their Masters iPad app, and that's engaging with their 4 or 5 digital streams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's happened in a very short window of time. You know, I mean, you go back 10 years and none of this existed. So
especially with the betting, right? With the betting, that's been the game changer. And that's why the PGA Tour is going to be putting fiber optic cabling throughout most of these venues, returning venues. They're going to be doing some nice stuff. I think the Players Championship is going to be the flagship golf course and event for the PGA Tour to innovate, create better purses, and a better crowd experience altogether. I know you're running slow on time. Well, we're kind of dragging it out. I know you only had 15, 20 minutes, brother. But to pick your brain is it's tough to get a hold of you sometimes.
Trust me, my wife says the same thing. What continent are we on this week, right? So, it's good. Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the U.S. Open. We've got a good stretch here still, right? We still got what? U.S. Open, FedEx Cup, President Cup. I mean, we're not even close to being.
Throw me 3 picks, 2 or 3 picks for the U.S. Open.
I think it's wide open. We know a lot about Brookline. We haven't seen it since the Ryder Cup in '99, and they've done a lot of changes. The one thing that I do know about this golf course that leaped out of the page at me is the greens are smaller than any other U.S. Open venue with the exception of Pebble Beach. So we're talking about 4,500 square foot greens versus 6,000 square foot greens. So I'm thinking this might get down to a greens and regulation contest. So I poked around at some of the guys who are leading the PGA Tour in greens and regulation, strokes gained approach. And then I took that and I went, okay, out of this crop of guys who lead in this category, who are playing well right now. So I threw out the Morikawas, who I love. I pushed aside Jon Rahm, who I love, because I just don't think they're out of their game right now. And the names that leaped out at me were Justin Thomas, Sam Burns, and Will Zalatoris. So for me right now, if you're asking me for 3 names, that's kind of where I'm going. Wouldn't surprise me if Rory kept on a hot streak and played well. Not at all. Wouldn't surprise me if Scotty Scheffler kept playing well. That's all he's done all year. But for 3 picks, all 3 of those guys right now seem to be really solid iron players. And I think that's going to come to the top of the leaderboard come Sunday. Solid iron players.
Yeah, 3 solid picks.
Solid. Thanks for coming and joining us, brother. Hopefully you'll come on once again. If you want to listen to Mark Zecchino, check him out at Golf Talk Canada, TSN Golf, PGA Tour Golf Live. And thanks for coming on.
Take care, boys. Have a great night.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
So we'll stay on for a little bit longer just to wrap things up, Mike.
Yeah, like we said, a lot of golf this week. We flirted with the LIV Tour a bit with Mark. I wanted to get a little more out of him on that, but the guy's been working his tail off the last week, so he needs a break. Let me just say that it was better than I expected it to be. I had low expectations on a production level, and they surpassed what I had in mind. I thought the broadcast worked very well on YouTube. First couple mornings, I watched it on my computer while making coffee out here in the West Coast. It came on early, so I enjoyed it for a while I was preparing breakfast and coffee and whatnot. So Saturday morning, I put it on my TV the broadcast was pretty good. Pretty good. I enjoyed it. Got to say, the golf did get a little bit boring to me at a certain point. But there were some components with the team aspect that did keep you interested, and there was more positives than negatives, in my opinion, this week. The elephant in the room, definitely Phil Mickelson. Alan Shipp not getting thrown out of the press conference. That was pretty shocking, actually, to see that. Really surprised that happened. But to Alan's credit, he goes out there and writes some honest feedback, which was quite positive, complimented the food, and he had a lot of compliments out of the event, which, based on being thrown out of a press conference, you'd think he might come at it a bit more scathing, but it's very complimentary. So we'll see. There's 7 more of them this year. They're going to happen. I think that after the U.S. Open, we're going to see a few more players commit to going to play the LIV Tour. So let's see how this unfolds. What do you think, Raph?
I don't know where to begin. We're looking at a purse that's $4.375 million, and that's pretty compelling, Mike. The guy coming out of last place is making $100,000+. Who knows if he had an appearance fee or not? It just amazes me. Now, if we look at the Canadian Open, what are the guys making? $1.566 million for Rory. Now, I know Rory's not talking about money, but money really helps. Most of the guys they got are in their 40s. Their careers are not going any further. They feel like it's a comfort thing where they could take care of their families and have more time with a schedule of 8 tournaments plus the majors, or maybe next year 10 to 15 tournaments plus the majors. They're not looking at 25 tournaments and grinding to try to make their card. So there's a lot to be said about the money side. A lot of these guys don't want to get political. There's a lot of sports, and I'm not condoning LIV investments for where the money comes from. I'm just saying, from a sports and business perspective, for the guys who knows how long their careers are, right? Who knows how long they're going to be playing for?
Pat Perez, obviously, is one of the newer players to commit to the tour. He's mentioned that he travels for 33 weeks out of the year. Playing the LIV Tour allows him to maybe travel for 8 or 15 weeks. We don't know what the full schedule is going to look like next year. This year's looking like a pilot project, but he's also another one of those guys. I believe he's 47 at the moment. So he's already looking down the road at Champions Tour. So he's won 3 times on PGA Tour over 22 years, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Someone will call me out. So he's going to go try and cash in. It makes sense, right? I don't know what his total money earning is, but he's been out there a long time, and it makes sense for these older guys in the twilight of their PGA Tour career to go out, because they're not going to make that much money in the Champions Tour. Although that is a great retirement plan for them. So again, it's a risk. They're going to go and try to play these LIV events, make some cash. And, I'm interested to see how Pat Perez continues to talk to this, because he's probably the most honest golfer out there. Yeah. He throws it right there on the table and doesn't hold back. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the press conferences, because if we're going to get an honest comment, he's the one who's going to say it.
They got a cast of characters, didn't they? They got Patrick Reed, they got Bryson DeChambeau, they got Pat Perez. If you're going to make a mini series on golf, these are the guys you're going to hire to play as actors. There's, sure. They're intriguing. They're interesting to talk to. There's going to be theatrics, and it's going to be a different kind of golf. Like I mentioned earlier to Mark Zecchino and you, I also watched it on YouTube. I almost didn't want it to be successful, to tell you the truth, getting all our players back, but it's an interesting concept. The graphics were amazing. The pace was great. And and again, I'm a huge fan of the PGA Tour. It's all I've known and watched. Yep. But it's nice to see another product out there. It's going to elevate the game. It's really interesting to see. And just a quick break here. I just want to thank our new sponsors and partnership with ARR Golf out of France. Jupiter, Florida, and in Canada. It's a great product that's going to be available now in Canada, BC, Alberta, Ontario, and the rest of Canada. They make a high-end custom line of clubs, putters, bags. They have accessories. Our Golf is coming to a store or club fitter near you. So we're thrilled about this high-end line of clubs. They sponsor many tour players, and we'll have Tim Petrovic on in the next couple of weeks talking about how he uses it, him being one of the best putters on the Champions Tour.
Check them out on Instagram, argolf.ca, or their United States channel is AR Golf USA. They've got some beautiful gear. We're going to be arranging some giveaways. We'll come up with some contests to give away some accessories. And not only that, we're going to give away some of their high-end gear. Just give us a bit of time to plan that. We'll make some announcements on social media and through our show, but we're looking forward to it. I haven't received my shipment yet. It is coming. I'm going to have it by Thursday, according to the tracker. So I'm definitely going to game one of these putters. I'm looking forward to getting the line and promoting it. So thank you to Our Golf, and we look forward to chatting with Tim Petrovic. Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And, starting right now, Mike, I think we could tell our audience, anybody who's listening or watching this show, we're on 15 platforms now. If you like or share our feed in any shape or form, we're going to tally that up and you're automatically on the next giveaway for Our Golf. So listen, right back to Canadian Open golf. I'm fascinated. Not only as a Canadian, but to see Rory McIlroy go back-to-back, shoot 8 under, epic 6.
Well, looks like we just lost Raf. Slight technical difficulty, but to give him a minute, he will dial back in. For now, let's recap our partnership with Our Golf. They're our first brand partner, as well as we have our sponsors, Drinkwell. You can find them at drinkwell.ca, and they're all over Instagram. We will be giving away more of their product as well. And Big Time Showroom provides us with some apparel and some other cool stuff that we will be giving away again. So be sure to check us out on our Instagram channels at thegolfpodcast.live. Twitter, we have at the Golf Podcast Live. And yeah, so just waiting on Raf here to dial back in. He was having some technical difficulties with his internet connection today. So we'll give him another minute or two here. And yeah, and we'll call him back in. So it looks like Raf's having some further technical difficulties. We're just going to wrap it up. I want to say thank you to Mark Zecchino for joining us, and as well to Rafael Calamat, our co-host. And we will definitely be picking this up later in the week. We want to talk about the U.S. Open and some picks. And as usual, we'll be back on Monday with John Cook for a wrap-up to the U.S. Open. So thank you for listening, everybody, and have a great evening or day wherever you are. Take care.